drop down arrow here, all of those either learn or STD, that means a standard program or a learning program. I want to choose one that's not set, meaning no one set up a program on that one yet. Okay, so I'm just going to choose, doesn't matter which one, I'm just going to choose that one. And you'll see now I've got no master image selected, nothing has been set up on this specific program. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is this big sensor setup button right here, I'm going to select that, and that's what's going to allow me to set up the program. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit sensor setup. The first question that this is going to ask me is what type of mode do we want to go through, okay? What I'm going to say for you guys is 90% of the applications that you're going to solve, especially this one, you're going to be doing in learning mode. But let me explain real quick the difference between the modes, okay? So standard mode is what I'll start with, okay? With vision, especially nowadays, and not just vision, but a lot of technology, we're all talking about AI now, right? There's a lot of power in AI, but this standard mode does not have that capability. A standard tool or a standard mode application would be, I want to verify presence of a label based off of an outline or a shape or a blob. Todd, you mentioned that a minute ago. Or a color or something like that, okay? That's what it would be a standard tool. We've been using standard tools in this industry since Vision was released, 30 plus years ago, okay? Learning mode, or this AI mode is what you could also call it, harnesses artificial intelligence by, you can teach it, you can draw a box or a region of interest around a date code or a label, and you can say, this is what a good example looks like. Then you take one without a code or without a label, set it down in front of the camera, and you hit teach, and you say, this is a no good example. And then it just, the AI internally just considers the difference between those two images. And it's really not as fancy as you might think. It's really just counting the good pixels versus the bad pixels, right? That's how it's considering good versus bad. And then if there's anything in between, it will just say, is this closer to my good scenario, or is it closer to my no good scenario, right? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my learning mode. I'm going to hit OK. Then it's going to show me my steps. You'll see here, only 4 steps to set this up. So I'm just going to click on the top one here. You can see the camera starts blinking. And we've got our image, okay? One thing you'll notice here is looks really out of focus, right? I don't like the way this looks. Doesn't look very pretty. Out of focus. I also, you can see that big glare spot there. Yeah. So with some of our competitors, vision sensors, or even some of our older models, you would have to manually adjust the lighting and the focus. Okay. What's really nice about this camera is you can use this auto brightness feature here, and you just give it a second, and you can kind of see it kind of adjust the brightness there. But you can also manually change it. Like here you can see it got close, it looks a little better, there's not as much glare. But I might just turn this up a little bit, make it look a little better. Maybe something like that. And then down here I can also do the same thing but with focus. So I can hit my focus adjustment, and it will automatically adjust the focus. There you go. So now you can see very clearly that label and also that code. That looks pretty good to me, right? So for the sake of a training session, that's really all that you would do in the first step. However, Todd, this is probably applicable to you. One thing you would also want to set up in the first step is your trigger. So if you're using, are you guys using a photo eye or something?
Yeah, I think triggers off.
Okay.
I think it's internal.
So that would be clicking this, and then you would use an external trigger, and then there you go. So I can put my hand in front of there, and it's giving me trigger.
Sorry.
My bad.
That's all right. No worries.
So I'll put it back on internal. I just wanted to show you that looking at external, and then you can set delays in here as well, Todd. So you can say, hey, I got my trigger. I want to wait 50 milliseconds or half a second or whatever that might be, and then I capture it. Okay. So step 1 is where you would set that up. But I'm just going to leave it on internal for now, just for the sake of the time. Okay. That's all you would do in the first step. Okay. I can move on. I hit next to step 2. Okay. Step 2 is going to be your easiest step. This is where we're going to register what a good part is. So I just hit registered master image from the live, and then you can see it gives us a live image there, and I just hit register this image. And that's going to make that image what I'm going to build my program off of. Okay? Hit next to step 3. And we're already on step 3 of 4. Okay? So step 3, I always tell customers that step 1 is your most important step. The reason I say that is because if you can set up a really crisp or a pretty image, then the rest of the setup's going to be a lot easier, right? If your image was all blurry, you're not going to be detecting anything, right? However, step 3 is going to be your second most important step because we've already identified what the camera is looking at, but now we need to tell it what features are we looking for, right? What are we interested in identifying, right? So the first thing I need to do is set up what we would call a position adjustment, okay? In this camera right here, you can say here, it says add position adjust. What a position adjustment does is it allows the camera to follow a certain feature. So let's say for whatever reason, let's say we're going to do this application a little bit differently. I'm just going to try and explain this to you guys. We're going to look at this, take it off the line. We're going to look at that bottle and make sure that the cap is present. But we're on a conveyor, so, yeah. But we're on a conveyor, so what's a conveyor do? It bounces, the bottle might wiggle, something like that. So what we need to use a position adjustment for is to use a certain feature on this bottle as our anchor point. So I would say maybe this portion right here, the lip, is my anchor. And if that anchor point moves around, if the bottle's bouncing, that anchor will just follow it. So I'm going to use this as my anchor, and I'm always going to look at this portion of the bottle to look for the label. So that way the tool is following it around. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. So I'm just going to take this box, and people call this a lot of different things as well. I always say this is kind of like Microsoft Paint, but this is really just, this is like a region of interest, right? I'm going to put this box over some common feature. In this case, maybe I'll just use like that portion of the Walgreens label. I could also say I only want to look for that in a certain spot, but I'm going to go with that for now. I hit OK. You can see that there. One thing I do want to verify though is that that tool is working the way I want it to. So I can hit limit adjustment here, and you can see now the camera's on. I'm getting a live image. And right here it'll give me a matching rate. How confident is it that it's finding that portion of the Walgreens label? And it is. That's good. 99%. It's confident. Feels good about it. Okay. Todd, I will tell you a couple things here, just because maybe you'll be the one that messes with it in the future. But you can come in here and you can turn it on like a high accuracy mode if you wanted to. If it's not a really high-speed application, I always recommend it. That's a good thing to know. Limiting the rotation range. If you find that your tool is like shaking or something like that, you can say, I don't want you to rotate at all. You can turn that to 0. Again, these are just some things in here that if you're finding that it's unstable, just a couple things you could try, right?
Yep.
All right, and that's it. Okay, so now what I need to do is I've got my anchor point or my lock point. Now I need to tell it, okay, I want you to look for the code, right? So right here, this add window, same idea. I'm just going to take this box, I'm going to draw it around my code, and I'll make it long like this. And again, a lot of that just kind of works like Microsoft Paint. I'm just dragging and drawing boxes. Okay? And then, okay. So, right here, this highlighted blue button, learn okay, no good. This is where I'm going to use that AI feature. I'm going to hit okay. And then you can see here, it's asking me, I need you to add an okay image and I need you to add a no good image. So I'm going to go ahead and hit okay because we have a code there. And then do we have a way, even if it's just like covering up that code, that I could add a no good image for this? It still locks onto the label. However, you can't see the code there, right? So I just add that as my no good scenario. And now it's got an example of both good and bad. You need to give it an example of a good and a bad. If you give it only good or only bad, it won't let you move forward. Okay? And that's it. So again, that would typically take a lot longer if you're using a standard tool or something like that. I just hit start learning. It takes it a couple seconds and it's done. So now it knows the differences between the good and the bad, and I can move on. So that's all we have to do for step 3. I'll fat finger it like I am. Okay. Step 4, this is your last step, Todd. This is, again, probably applicable to you, but this is where you're going to assign your outputs. So like, what do I want to happen when I see a no good? So the way this is kind of configured is like output wire 1, I'm going to send a signal over that wire and the total status is no good. Like I can select that here. So that would basically say when I see no code, I'll kick it off into here, or however you guys have that set up.
Okay.
Right? And that's it. I hit complete and I'm done. That's my entire setup. Okay.
So how do you save that setup now? Do I want to save that
It's saved.
as a template?
Yeah, so if I hit this drop down here, I have it as program 19. That's the one that I created.
Can we rename that?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you rename that as Keyence default?
Sure.
Okay.
So I can come in here, hit detail information, and then I have all of my programs up here.
Okay.
But right here I can hit edit, and I can name this whatever I want. So you're just saying name
Keyence default.
Okay. Like you can, these are more like extended functions if you're punching through this and want to look around. You've got your input and output settings here, changing polarity if you needed to do that. Let's see here. You can put some security features on this, like lock it out.
Do you have different user levels in here?
I know that the most up-to-date model has like 2 security levels. I want to say that the IV2, the model you have, just has 1. Let me think. Here's a cool feature that we have. If for whatever reason you guys are finding that you're kicking off a lot of bottles and you don't know why, you can go into your running image history and you can see past images. It will give you a time and a day stamp of when something failed. The default is to save only the no good images. However, you can click this logging setting and you can have it save all images. The caveat though with that is, if you don't put an SD card in there in the camera, then it will only save 100 images. Okay? But if you put an SD card in there, it's 1,000, so on. So, but yeah, I mean that's pretty much the extent of it. Again, it's meant to be kind of an entry-level camera, so there's not a lot more to it.
So let's say we lock it down. Can you still select a recipe and run with it?
Say that one more time.
If you lock it down, can you still select a recipe and run?
Like in this, are you saying if it's like got the security and stuff in there? I don't believe so. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what is that? Never mind.
It would basically be, it would just lock out everybody
Everybody.
feature. Yeah.
So you'd have
Let
to
me,
log in
that
to
could be
log.
something I could get back to you guys on, because again, I know that our most up-to-date model has like, you know, certain people can do like changing recipes and just hitting run, but they can't edit all the settings.
Right.
And then there's another feature where it gives you everything, and then there's another